Welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. As you know, we review vehicles on this channel, and this qualifies. This is the Hitachi EH400 Earth Mover.
They're probably the biggest brakes in the world.
I'm going to take you on a tour of the Hitachi EH400, which is not the largest earth mover, but it's sort of like one step down. Cat makes the, what was it called? The 9600 797? Yeah, I don't know where I came up with that number. 797, and this is the largest earth mover on the planet. They tell me that this can fit in the bed of that. So if someone has one of those sitting in the garage, we'd love to review it. It's actually powered by electricity. We'll talk a little more. So come around. You'll notice these giant cylindrical shaped, circular shaped items that look like headlight covers. Those are not headlights. Those are air filters. These are your headlights. At first, you know, it kind of looks like a Tonka toy, right? Everything's just totally out of proportion, but in a large sense. I thought those were giant headlights. They're not. Take a look at this radiator grill. You have, I don't know, 15 feet of radiator right here in front of you. I mean, if you run someone over, you would have no clue whatsoever. Now, I have to say a really big thank you to our friends at Goodyear Tire. We're at their proving grounds in San Angelo, Texas, where they have invited us to come and drive this earth mover so we can bring more reviews like this to you guys. Super cool. Come around the side here. Goodyear makes the tires for earth movers. They make replacement tires, which is a really crazy business, of course. This is the front tire. I don't know the specs totally. It's a, here we go, a 4690R57. So it's a 57-inch internal diameter, I guess is what that relates to. But then it goes, of course, all the way up. And the tires are incredibly sensitive to speed, load, and other items as well, as you would expect. So they were saying that the vehicles can run, this thing will do about 37 miles an hour, but you could only do that with less weight in it. Of course, the tire actually heats up from the stress from the inside out, and the tires are your biggest limitation on something like this. So they're working with technology to make that better, of course, but in a heavy mine, you have to run, you know, if you're running full load, you kind of have to go a little bit slower. Now, Goodyear also makes this tire, which is for that giant Cat machine that we mentioned, the largest earth mover. And because they own this, they specially adapted the rear axle of this vehicle so that they could test the largest tire, and it fits on here. Typically, an earth mover of this size would have 6 of those front tires. They would have a dually back here and then a steer axle up front. Goodyear, again, adapted it to just put one on the center line of where the dual wheels would be. Giant tire, which is 63 inches of internal diameter, and I don't know, 30 feet tall, something ridiculous. These tires weigh about 12,000 pounds and cost almost $100,000 for the max tire, of course. Global production, I don't know, but they don't build very many of these tires. It's pretty small. Take a look in here. We're not going to open the cover, but this is where all of the magic happens. There's 2 electric motors, one for each rear wheel, so it's rear motor, rear wheel drive, like a 911. You have physical disc brakes that are there for emergency stopping, I believe only on the rear axle, potentially on the front, but I think it's just rear motor, rear braked. And these are like one-time use. You hit these suckers when you're going down a giant mine, and they're going to basically burn up and bring you to a stop safely, but then they'll probably need replacing. How you slow this thing down is with regenerative braking. So it actually uses the motors to stuff the energy back into the system. However, there's no battery capacity or energy storage system. So come with me, I'll tell you how this works. We're not going to walk in the grass because of rattlesnakes, but take a look above this front tire. You'll see a whole bunch of heat exchangers all the way up there. These are basically giant resistors or heat exchangers that take all of the energy from the electric motors slowing down this rig, and converts it to heat and dumps it. So every time you slow down, you're just making a whole bunch of waste energy. Now what powers this is a locomotive style diesel electric engine. It's right up here. Of course, you can see the two giant diesel exhaust pipe. I don't know the specs on the engine, but it sounds really cool. It makes tons of turbo spoolie noises, and it's pretty fun for sure. So it basically powers a generator, which, you know, obviously converts the diesel electric power into electricity, which then powers the rear tires back here. In terms of weight, you know, weight is very critical, of course, to tire life and wear. So there's a scale up here just next to the driver compartment on the opposite side of the truck, where they can see how much they actually have it weighted and if they need to shift the load around from side to side, because these things can carry about 450,000 pounds of payload. The big ones can carry almost 800,000 pounds of payload. So let's go up and explore what it's like up here in the on the vehicle, and then of course we're going to take it for a drive. Walking up the giant staircase here, I've never had to walk up a staircase to drive a vehicle other than like a giant yacht or something like that. And here we are up in the driver's cab compartment. Now this cab is just super thick metal because it's designed to protect you in the event of a rollover. So the doors here are unbelievably heavy. They're like bank vault doors. I mean, that is a lot of force to move that thing. We're gonna jump in there in a second with our new friend Alex from Goodyear. He's gonna take us for a little ride. But this is power electronics behind here. This is basically what powers the AC drive system. Interestingly, you cannot service this vehicle on your own. You have to have someone from Hitachi come out to it, and they have a special key that unlocks these compartments. So no user serviceability here. These are the resistors I was talking about, heat exchangers for the regen. And that's about everything I know about this thing. So let's take it for a drive. You join me inside of the giant Hitachi with Alex from Goodyear. Alex is gonna show me how to drive this thing, and you're crazy enough to let me take it for a spin.
Yes, sir.
You obviously haven't seen any of our videos.
No.
This thing's the size of a small city. You could fit how many passenger cars across? At least 5.
Yeah.
You're clear whenever you're ready.
So it's a diesel electric drivetrain, correct?
Yes.
So you have a giant ass diesel engine feeding a generator, which then feeds the rear wheel drive only electric motors.
Yes.
Can you drift it?
I prefer you did.
No, but is it possible?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, it's only one way to find out. No, I'm joking. Thank you again for the opportunity to drive this.
Yes.
Don't want to break your equipment, of course. So I have 3 pedals by my feet. I have a power hydraulic brake, which are the friction disc brakes.
Yes.
There's a left brake and a left pedal and a right pedal. I imagine the left pedal controls the regen.
Yes.
So you have resistors over here basically with cooling fans
Yes.
that burn off energy as heat, and that slows the vehicle down.
Yes.
That's cool. And will I have to use the friction brakes at all throughout today?
No, those would be for emergency purposes only.
And those are not really designed for consistent use, obviously.
No, sir.
They'll kind of burn up if you really use them a lot. So
Right.
electric braking is the answer.
Yes.
Very cool, very cool. Well, I can feel the power steering there is pretty insane.
Yes.
Very light steering. That must be tons of pressure going to those tires.
Yes.
All of our temperatures look like we're not in the red. Everything is nice. We're sitting at about 600 RPM. So how do we drive this thing?
All right, so you'll apply the brake.
The
Yes.
regen braking, yep.
And then we'll turn off the parking brake. And then just put it in forward and you're ready to go.
Oh, she revs up.
Yes. It won't take off when you release the brake. You'll have to apply
No
the
creep.
throttle. No.
Okay. And so just a little bit of throttle will let this thing go. Whoa, that's pretty instant.
Yes, it's actually got a lot of power.
I'm surprised that this thing has so much instantaneous torque. Like I just put my foot down a little bit and we were just instantly going. And so what's the speed you typically recommend that we drive at? Because we're doing about 20 miles an hour. Oh my God. Well, I'm noticing that it's sort of like a boat where you put a little tiny input in. It makes a big difference because the wheelbase is so short.
Yeah.
But it does take a half a second. And I'm sure you just kind of get used to it moving around a little bit.
Yeah, there's a little bit of slack in the steering.
Right, sure. Obviously, it's extremely wide, so I'm looking at the right mirrors all the way to the right of me, and I can see that we're obviously not on the edge of the gravel here. But it sounds awesome.
Yes.
What a noise! So turbo's spooling up on that diesel electric generator. It's very thunderous. Yeah, but honestly, it's as easy to steer, way easier than like a modern pickup truck.
Yes.
Can we test the braking performance
Sure.
of regen? So I lift off the accelerator pedal and we're coasting.
Coasting right now.
And so now if I lean into the brake pedal, we are regen braking, obviously. And so that's the noise we're hearing, is the energy being burnt off over there. And pretty strong braking performance from those motors.
Yes, very impressive.
And just because the motors are on the rear axle, you're only braking and accelerating with the rear axle.
Yes.
We saw the disc brakes yesterday when we peeked in like that giant cover behind there.
Yes.
And you know, no diff really, you just have an electric motor on each axle.
Yes.
3-phase obviously, and runs at 1,000 volts. So 1,000 volt motors. So we're just going to continue straight on here, correct?
Yes. And I want to slow down for your friends just a little.
That's the opposite of what I'd like to do. Yeah, I figure we'll just keep this consistent speed here. Seems easy enough to control. So he says. Giving him some room. There we go. Yeah, I guess it's just something you got to get used to in terms of the size. But pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The power level, I mean, that's crazy. Just the amount of torque that you can feel behind us. Now, have you driven one of these loaded, of course, for tire testing, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
currently it's unloaded.
What's it like when it's loaded?
It takes a little bit longer to slow down and takes a little bit longer to speed up. But
Right, so, but you do feel a noticeable performance drop when it's maxed out.
Yeah.
So cool. And so, what do you think is what is like the operator's license to drive one of these in a mine? Are there certifications
So
to drive this?
Not too familiar with the mine side, but I'm sure MSHA has some safety courses and training that's required, maybe preferred by each mine.
Sure.
As well as the MSHA. And as for Goodyear, it's some on-site training.
Yeah, I got some on-site training too. That one stops it, that one makes it go.
That's right.
That's all I need to know.
And you're driving a 2-story house, you gotta remember.
Oh, I think it's bigger than that. Yeah, pretty insane for sure. Yeah, just that feeling of a really wide wide separation between the front tires, and then that narrow wheelbase makes it kind of awkward. Just in the way that it finds the ruts in the pavement, of course. And then just that power is pretty intoxicating, especially when it dumps the boost from the turbo. That sounds pretty beefy. So now I've lift off all acceleration. So the engine's now back down to basically 1100 RPM. I'm going to start easing onto the regen, and I imagine we'll just stop right up here. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Well, this is the first earth mover I've driven, and I hope it's not the last, because this is quite the experience. And yeah, you can hear the fans burning off all the electricity there. And it holds itself on the motor, which is really nice.
Yes.
And then, so I imagine I go neutral,
Yes.
and then parking brake.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. It's just like driving a Silverado. Thank you again for letting me drive this and letting our crew here take it for a spin as well.
Yes, sir.
What an experience. We are now one of the only independent reviewing agencies of earth movers.
Yes.
Good accomplishment there. Thanks again, Alex.
Thank you.
Ooh, that was freaking awesome, folks. We just drove an earth mover. It's definitely the biggest vehicle I've ever driven on the road. It has a ton of torque, really fast. You put your foot down and zzz, it just gets right up to speed. Benefit of electric motors, of course it's unloaded and we have weird tire sizes, so it kind of drove a little funky, but easy steering, easy braking, great acceleration actually. I took it up to about 30 miles an hour peak. It's supposed to do 37. 30 felt a little sketchy to me, but I think if I got used to it, I'd drive this thing around no problem. The biggest thing is you have your mirrors all the way over here. So you're looking from the cab all the way over here to see where your right tires are and if they're actually on the road. Because a couple of times I was like, oh, I'm close to the edge. Let me go over here. Oh, I'm close to the edge on that side. Pretty tight for sure. You couldn't drive this in traffic, although it would be really, really freaking cool.
They're probably the biggest brakes in the world. Yeah.
The biggest brakes in the world. Up front. The rear has the same ones, but inside it's axle braked on the rear. This is like hub braked on the front. You can feel the heat coming off the diesel engine around here. This must be the electric generator. Yeah, alternator, 1600 volts, continuous rating. Neat. So thanks so much for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. Let us know if you liked this oddball earth mover style video. I certainly had a blast driving this thing. Bucket list item. Again, a huge thank you to our friends at Goodyear. And if you happen to own an earth mover, Goodyear makes tires, but I'm not sure anyone who owns an earth mover will be watching this video. So thanks, really special thanks to Goodyear, especially as this isn't going to convert into any sales for them. See you on the next one.